Like, I received the worst news in the world. I don't like to blame people, but I think that our parents teach us a lot. And I think it's just a frame of mind that I learned from my father.
365 days, I didn't just lose my dad. I lost like 4 other people. I don't even know if you know this.
Over the years, I've been a very selfish person. I want to give her more than that. To overcompensate for the hardships that I put her through.
If you're striving for excellence, day in, day out, she's seeing you work hard. Episode 2, Let's Link the Intel, hosted by Alfie.
I'm Niall.
You're sounding a bit less confident today, bro.
I'm not. I'm just calm. I'm collected.
We ain't actually had a catch up today.
I'm relaxed. Well, the only thing you really said about me today is when I came in earlier on that my energy wasn't looking so good.
Yeah, I spotted that.
So,
well, I said over message I could tell your energy wasn't looking so
well, there
good.
you go. There you go. So even before I came around you, like...
Yeah. Why was that?
Today was in my mind, today was a bad day.
Okay.
But in actuality, it was a lit day.
Okay.
Completely normal. One of those days, nothing bad happened. Nothing that I can complain about. Not a thing. But yet, I feel like my energy was saying different.
Okay.
Like, I received the worst news in the world. So...
Do you have a reason why? Like, can you elaborate on it?
Yeah, I've identified it, and I think it was to do with gratitude. And today, specifically, a lack of gratitude. So,
it's good that you've identified it.
Yeah, that's obviously the first step, but I'm very good at identifying certain things which I struggle with. Correcting them, now that is the real challenge. Because today, I woke up, I wasn't thankful for anything. Quite the opposite. I was miserable. I woke up, and I was miserable. I woke up with breath in my lungs, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
And then I got on with my day.
Probably made you feel bad in yourself straight away, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And today was one of those days where you're kind of wishing the time to go. You're wishing the hours to fly past. For what reason? Where are you trying to go? That's what I was asking myself earlier. I was like, why are you wishing the day to be over?
But you just wanted the time to go quick.
Exactly. So I think gratitude is a big one for me. I've always been somebody, I think naturally I'm a bit of a pessimist, which is something that I actively am trying to change. I don't like the fact that I'm pessimist.
You're trying to work on
pessimistic.
Or work off it, essentially.
Yeah, work myself out of it. It's not a fun frame of mind to be. It's not, it also doesn't make for a very good person to spend time with. You don't like spending time with pessimistic people. If somebody's always killing the vibe saying that's not going to work, we can't do that, that's a big barrier for us, preventing us from doing X or Y.
Do you think that's due to hanging around with
certain?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's something within myself
as an individual.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue it's because I'm pragmatic and I like to be realistic about where things are at, but I think there's pragmatism and pessimism are two different things, and you can be optimistically pragmatic.
Okay.
And
I see where you're coming from.
You can be pessimistically pragmatic, and I think I tend to go with pessimism as opposed to optimism. But I believe that we have the freedom to choose which state of mind we want to operate in.
100%.
You're naturally an optimistic guy. Always have been. Always has been. Yeah. Everything you do, whenever I came around you back in the day, years and years ago when we would get up to mischief on the ends, like you were always an optimistic guy. Every day was like, what are we going to do today? Phineas and Ferb type.
Yeah.
And
I think that will link to me personally. I feel like I've got a high level of gratitude due to certain reasons. So every day I'm just like, let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go get it, boy. Like even today, right? We've had to do some makeshifts.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, no barrier, bro.
Yeah, no barrier.
Smashing through.
No barrier. But even still, like with every barrier that we've had to overcome to just be in this position where we can have this conversation now, I've always been like, I wish we could just fix
That's the energy I was picking up earlier when you was messaging me.
And that's what I'm saying. But you, it's just like, nah, it's all part of the journey. It's a bit of fun, mate.
It's part of the game.
Lighten
We
up.
gotta be. The thing is, we gotta be grateful that we're even doing this.
But that's what I'm saying. My mind doesn't go there.
Yeah.
Like, my mind doesn't think, oh, I'm so fortunate to be in this position where I can have a great conversation.
And why do you think your traits? This is a good question. Why do you think your traits relate to your lack of gratitude at times? Gratitude.
I don't like to blame people, but I think that our parents teach us a lot. And I think it's just a frame of mind that I learned from my father. Like, I don't remember him ever being a particularly optimistic person. And that's not me bashing him. That's just him and probably how he learned to be from his father. I want to break the cycle because, like I said, I know it doesn't make for a nice person to be around. And it didn't make particular moments of my childhood very fun or enjoyable or lighthearted as they should be, because I was around somebody who was quite pessimistic, pragmatic, but very pessimistic at the same time. And so I think I've just learned very well from watching my father how to be, even though every step of the way I've hated it and disliked it and probably wanted to be as far away from as possible from that frame of mind. But we have a natural way of just, watching and learning. And if that's what I was around, and I wasn't around somebody who acted optimistically like you may have been, that's why I've kind of naturally defaulted to this way of thinking.
Yeah, I feel you on that as well, because we briefly touched on that in the last episode about like contamination.
Yeah,
when we was obviously speaking about confidence and being around the people.
Absolutely.
So if you feel that you've been raised around that, it's obviously going to rub off on you slightly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in energy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the world just revolves around energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've grown up with that energy around you, it's bound to rub off. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in personal development. Like, you can work on that yourself. And what do you think's sort of holding you back from that?
Lasting change. Like, I can have a good conversation with you and go away and feel pumped up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Because I felt pumped up on Monday. You remember my energy on Monday?
Yeah.
I was so excited to do this. And I was like feeling like a good sort of energy to everything that I was doing throughout the day.
Feeling optimistic.
Waking up. Yeah, exactly. I was in an optimistic state of mind. Wake up Tuesday morning, it's gone. And then what I struggle to do is get myself back there without being an energy vampire on someone else.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be like that. I want to be able to pump myself up and then go around other people and either match their energy because they're in an optimistic frame of mind, or take them out of the pessimistic state of mind that they're in. So,
and I think the latter's quite difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if they're in like a deep state of mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So what do you think it is about you and your upbringing that's created such an optimistic person?
It's a very good question. Maybe the same sort of answer as yourself. I think my family was quite dependent on it. Like, my dad himself, he was quite a well-driven man. He made a good living for himself in the end. But obviously I lost my dad when I was 15. And I felt that just built on the optimism, right? Like, it took me a few years to get over it. Anyone does when they go through trauma like that at such a young age. But coming from that, and like, as you go through life and you hear about other people's stories, it's like, I'm not the only one going through it. How many people are on the planet?
8 billion.
8 billion, right? And every single one of them person is birthed by someone. So they have to lose someone. So it's like, I am no worse off than any other individual on the planet. So why waste the loss? That's how I look at things day in, day out. Like, if anything, for me, it's developed my gratitude. And I know that sounds crazy, because it's like, I realized from the circumstances of him passing away and what it took to get to that point of him passing. And I've always been a great observer. Like, always, since the youth, right? I've always spotted a gap in the market and looked at opportunities. I've always realized what's going on from a very young age. So I think seeing that made me think, like, he ain't gone for a reason. Because that year was crazy for me, right? 365 days, I didn't just lose my dad. I lost like 4 other people. I don't even know if you know this, to be fair.
I didn't realize you lost 4.
Yeah. So first it was my mum's mum, so my nan. And then it was my dad's brother before him. So it was my uncle. And then it was my dad. But this whole time that that's happening, my dad's mum is battling cancer. And then he passed before she even passed. Like in this 1 year, right? Crazy. They all passed on a Thursday as well, about energy and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. This is why I'm a big believer on energy, right? And now I try and make Thursdays my good days. But that's a whole nother subject. But like, after seeing all that and enduring it, like we could go on more about my story, but it's like, it was painful for me at the time, but I used it. It took me a few years to realize the power that I was given. I know this is going to sound crazy, right? But I was given a power from this. It's like, you either fall into your family habits or you develop from it, right? It's like, within every loss is a great lesson. And they were big losses. So I had even greater lessons to learn. So for me, it was like, because they all died to health issues, it was like, okay, I need to start helping people. Do you know what I mean? It took me a few years to get it because I weren't in the right state of mind myself. But once I started to realize that, every day I kept pushing through these barriers and I'm becoming more grateful. It's like, okay, maybe I've got a purpose all of a sudden. Maybe I'm here for a reason. Even if I'm making myself delusional, like we were saying, like I'm optimistic day in, day out for a reason. I don't care if I'm delusional. To me, I've got a purpose. And that's why, for one, I jumped into the health and wellness sector, which I'm obviously trying to push. And I'm a big believer in educating people in the right way. Obviously, this is why we're here on the podcast. So I feel like the bottom line of it is that you build the gratitude from realizing the lessons in the losses in your life. Can you feel me on that?
You know, my nan said something very interesting to me today. She said there's no such thing as loss. There's just change. And I think if there's one fundamental
Your nan
thing...
is always spitting game.
she's always spat game. But if there's one fundamental thing that I think we can all agree on in life is that there's change. Seasons change. People change. You don't necessarily lose somebody. Just...
Yeah.
The period of them being in your life changes.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to look at loss and label it as change instead of loss, it means you never really lose anything because you never had anything in the first place. If you think about it, none of those 4 people were your possessions. They were all their own individuals. They had their own lives, their own stories, their own brains, doing millions of calculations every day. You didn't own any piece of that. Yeah, you had connections with them, but you didn't own it. So how could you lose something that you didn't own in the first place? Just the period of them being in your life kind of changed, and it was time to transition into you going for a new period of your life.
And essentially, do you not think the craziest thing is like, I know it sounds horrible in a way, but it's almost like it was meant to happen?
Well, everything's meant to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, like you can't fight fate.
No, you can't fight fate. Everything happens for a reason. Or everything happens for no reason, but everything that's going to happen is going to happen anyway. And that's getting super philosophical. But the fact remains that I think for me, I wake up and the first thing I think about is everything that I've lost. Or everything that I'm
rather
lacking.
than everything you've gained from the losses.
Yeah. And
it's difficult to get out of that state of mind. Believe me, I was in it for years.
I don't want to be there for years. I can't be there for years because the damage that will do to my body and my being and my character and the relationships that I want to have with people or maintain, it will absolutely erode them. It will destroy them. So I have to be committed to getting out of this cycle very quickly because there's a lot of things that I want to do in this life. And in order to do that, I need to be an optimistic energy that inspires people and doesn't kind of shroud them in misery and darkness and being ungrateful, because like you said, it rubs off on people. And I don't want the people in my life who look up to me or who will look up to me to absorb.
You don't want to pass the energy down to another generation.
No, because I want to break that generational curse. I have to. That's a big part of why I'm here, because it means that the people that come after me, they have a better life because of it. So I've got to be the one that says enough is enough.
You can't fast track it though, right? That's the first thing I think it's important to understand. Yeah. You can't fast track your way to gratitude, but you can work on it to an extreme circumstance of where you're like on the ball with it, right?
Well, I would say you can't... When you say you can't fast track your way to gratitude, the way I interpret that is you can't... You're naturally optimistic, right?
Natural? Or come through... This is my point, right? Nothing's natural to no one, I don't believe.
Well, this is... So the place that you're in now is worlds apart from where I'm at. But I'm committed to getting to the point that you're at.
And that's why you're here.
Some. Well, yeah, that's why I'm here. And so for me... In order to do that, it's about, like we said in the last episode, taking action. And I need to consciously take action to get myself out of this. And something in sort of processing how I was feeling today and then kind of assembling some sort of strategy to come out of it, I realized something. And I was like, when I was 5 years old, right? If your parents brought you in a big brown box, how gassed would you be? 5 years old. You get an empty big brown box. Like, the opportunities are endless. It's because that box could be a rocket ship. It could be a new gaff for you.
The box itself.
It could be a castle. It could be anything. All you've got to do is define it. And so, but if you brought me a box now, I'd be like, what the hell? Why did you bring... I don't want this.
Now you're dependent on what's in the box.
Well, it's not that necessarily that I'm dependent in the box. It's the way that I look at it. And so for me, you've seen the first Avatar, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right? You know when they first kind of merge with the Avatar and they first wake up in the Avatar's body and they're looking at their hands and they're looking at their legs and they're kind of getting used to how their body feels and the different.
This whole new feeling. Yeah.
But it's like, why, when I wake up in the morning, am I not looking at my hands, looking at my legs, looking at my feet? The very fact that I can stand up. I was reading a book today and I stopped for a second. I was like, it's pretty lit that I can read. Like, we take that for granted.
Yeah, big percentage of the world can't
read. But even still, when you think about what reading is, it's squiggles on a piece of paper, right? And I'm extracting value from that. Nobody's there talking to me. I mean, even having conversation, but still, reading itself is remarkable.
I feel like you're practicing gratitude without yourself even realizing that, right?
What, right now? Or just in general?
I've extracted this from what you've just told me.
Yeah.
Because you was reading this morning. And you're like, I do find it kind of crazy that I can read.
Yeah.
So...
No, this was at the end of the day.
Oh, at the end.
This was at the end of the... So for the entire day, up until... Because I've been here twice, because we had to set this up. The first time I came here, my energy was off. And you was like, go home, do some press-ups.
Yeah.
Sort yourself out, get your energy up. So I was like, all right, okay.
Did you do the press-ups?
I did. Good. I did more than the press-ups.
Good.
But the fact... And so I went back and I was like, in order to prep myself for this, I need to come with the right energy.
Yeah.
So how can I get into that? And then that's when I started really kind of, I was reading a little bit and I was thinking and I was like, there really is. When was the last time that you drove somewhere? And I guarantee, like, if you, I don't know, drove to London or something like that, and I was like, was there anything that you were grateful for that you saw throughout the journey? You'd probably be like, no, like I just drove here. Because that's that autopilot where you're not appreciating the trees outside or anything. And it sounds super airy-fairy, but I think for me to get out of this place, I need to be grateful for everything and anything.
Start showing a lot more gratitude.
Yeah.
Overall.
Literally.
What do you think personally is going to help that, though?
I'm going to have to find a way of reminding myself to be grateful. Because tomorrow I'll probably wake up and I'll feel just as miserable as I did this morning. The difference is if I can remind myself to wake up that child that would get excited over that cardboard box, that will put the day into a completely different lane.
Yeah.
So I think I would challenge everyone to wake up, and if you've got loved ones around you, to start just expressing how grateful you are for the very simple things. Because if I lost my legs tomorrow, God forbid, I would be so pissed off with myself that I wasn't grateful on Tuesday morning for having legs. Like, I'd be like, what was I complaining about?
You'd be fuming that you did not go on that run.
Exactly. And so it's I guess it's practicing what it would be like to lose everything in order to be grateful for what you currently have. And I think the only thing that I also worry about with gratitude, and this is something that I kind of want to get your perspective on, is if I'm ungrateful, or if I'm constantly in an ungrateful state of mind, I'm always going to be striving for more. But as soon as I become grateful for where I'm at, the need to strive for something kind of dissipates a little bit. So if I'm grateful that I just wake up and I'm breathing, but I'm fat, then there's no motivation there to lose weight. But if I wake up and I'm unhappy, and like I don't think about the fact that I'm breathing, and I just think about the fact that I'm fat and how much I hate the fact that I'm fat, that could give me the energy to go out and do something about it.
Maybe you need to try and separate the gratitude with the drive. Like you say, like, I'm quite a grateful person day in, day out. I like to think of the things that I'm grateful for as soon as I rise. That's a big thing for me, even just the basics. But the drive's a whole different thing. The drive is like your goals, essentially. Like, why? Because this is the important thing. Being grateful is one thing, but why you're here is another. So it's like, you got to define why you're here, or why you want to be here, essentially, right? So for you, what would you say some of your biggest goals are in the next 5 years? Let me just ask you that.
Over the years, I've been a very selfish person. I've taken from pretty much everyone, and I think I'm in negative equity with everybody that I know.
Yeah.
I think I can say that. Hand on my heart, I'm probably in some sort of negative equity with everyone I know. So for me, in the next 5 years, I want to be in a position where I can be ridiculously generous. Like, ridiculously generous.
But do you feel like that has to be financially?
I think that's a part of it. Definitely a part of it. I would love to take my mum on a ridiculous amount of holidays. I would love to say, Mum, you look like you need some time off. Go chill on the beach for a month. I would love to, say to my dad, what home improvements do you want to make? Because he loves his gaff.
Yeah.
And then help sponsor those. So financial is part of it, but it's not everything. Because when I say that I'm in negative equity, I'm the type of person that comes into your space and I'll moan, put you in a bad mood because I've just projected all my problems onto you. Wait for the pep talk. You've given me the pep talk, and then I'm on my merry way. So it ties into that as well. It's just genuinely giving more than I'm taking in every single area of life. Giving more than I'm taking, whether that's wisdom, whether that's energy, whether that's financially. That for me is a big goal of mine, to just be ridiculously generous with everything.
I feel like for you then, by the sounds of things, instead of always focusing on the big things, like let's say, for example, you're saying about you'd love to take your mum wherever she wanted to go, and I'm sure she'd be more than appreciative of that, right? Who wouldn't? But you're not focusing on the small things, essentially. Like, how do you know that she ain't just happy with you being happy? Because I feel like she would be, right?
Yeah.
I've met your mum a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. A very nice woman. So how do you know she's not happy with that? Like, mums have this thing, right? Like, my mum knows when I'm down. She knows when I'm down and I'm having it hard on like the off day. She might catch me and she'll be there to give me that kick up the ass. Like, listen, you get your ass back into gear. Like, she tells me I'm an optimist. Like, you go get it. Like, how would you know that that's not all your mum wants to see, right? Like, you turning up, having that conversation with her. Yet again, maybe I've got this perspective due to the loss that I've endured. So for me, it's like, as long as I'm smiling in front of my mum, her energy's on, my energy's on. I feel like that's a good thing I've done that day, right?
I think for me, that for me wouldn't be enough.
Okay.
Because I've put my mum in some bad positions, like terrible positions. Things where it's like, my mum's always been there. Like, even thinking about it,
yeah,
it makes me upset inside, genuinely, because like she's sat up in courtrooms with me. She's done the most for me.
Yeah, mum's a ride or dies.
Yeah. And for me, you know, okay, yeah, I'm winning, I'm smiling, I'm happy within myself. She'll appreciate that. But for me, I want to give her more than that, to overcompensate for the hardships that I put her through.
I think you'll be shocked. If you spoke to her, I think you'll be shocked.
I probably would. Right?
Because you're thinking, like, you know you've done all them wrongs. So you're trying to think of the biggest possible right. Holiday. Or something, right? Something materialistic, yeah, again. But how do you know, like, just not having, like, a great relationship with her, you doing well in life in general, is going to make her happy. And then the other stuff just comes, right? If you're striving for excellence day in, day out, she's seeing you work hard. She's seeing you put in the grind. Mums know. Mums can tell the energy. Mm. She's going to appreciate you going on that journey. Like, mums know about hardship, right? Yeah. They're like the number ones of hardship. They know.
Yeah.
They know. So, like, if she sees you go through this whole process and sees you happy, the holidays and the stuff that you're looking at financially, it's just going to be a bonus, essentially. Yeah. And some great memories that come from them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a common saying. Like, money don't buy happiness, but it does buy options. And that is facts, right? Because there is plenty of people out there with money for sure that are not happy due to probably personal circumstances, etc. So it's like appreciating the small things in life. So like you said, like when you're on that drive to London, how about the fact that you ain't got to walk? Because there's some kid in Africa or a third world country that's literally having to walk to go survive.
Well, I think that kind of ties quite nicely. Have you heard of the concept of the hedonic treadmill?
No, can you explain?
So the hedonic treadmill essentially is just our brains normalizing the changes which occur in our life. So let's say you go from where you're living now into a mansion, right? Big 5-bedroom. Initially, gassed. Like, you're gonna be like, I did it. I've done this. Look at this. Look at where I'm living. It's crazy. But after some time, it's going to feel normal to you. It's the same as you've traveled a lot, haven't you? Yeah. And you've kind of almost lived in certain countries.
Yeah.
How long does it take for a country for you to feel kind of normal for you? If I said, oh, we're going to Jamaica tomorrow, right? Gassed.
I wouldn't go. Tomorrow, I wouldn't go.
Because
I've just come back off a pretty long trip, right?
Yeah.
And during that trip, this is good actually, talking about gratefulness. I was sitting on the beach and I was beating myself up hard. Like one of these off days, because like I say, I'm not off much. This day, like I'm sitting on the beach on a beanbag, staring at this beautiful sea, beautiful sun, and I'm beating myself up, bro, differently. Because, yeah, again, I think to be grateful, like grateful is just a work of art, right? Because I can sit there and be grateful, but I've got over being grateful for certain things. Like I've got things I want to strive for and goals that I want to succeed. Like I felt like I should be working. It's like I'm lacking on my goals in some ways. This is how I was thinking when I'm sitting there. So why should I be enjoying just sitting there? But yet again, it comes down to the individual as such, right? Because would you be happy if you was just in that situation that I explained? Would you feel pretty grateful?
For a period of time, for sure.
Yeah, and then if you just kept sitting there for weeks on end.
No, because Thailand, when I was living out in Thailand, initially amazing, like the land of freedom, the land of smiles. It was spectacular. Every day was new, exciting, fresh. Where are we going to explore?
Then you wanted to get back into work, no?
And then after a while, it was just kind of like, I don't really feel like I'm achieving anything anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like...
And that is ungratefulness.
Yeah.
Like...
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid to say it.
Absolutely.
I know you're not, right? That is ungratefulness. And that's because I read a great book. It's based on like Japanese culture. It's called Ikigai. And it's basically saying, like, we are here for a purpose. It's like this crazy... The overall story of it is that there's a town, I think it's Okinawa, if I remember rightly, in Japan. And this is where they live the longest. They've got the most... Is it centurions?
Have I
said that right?
Yeah. Centurions.
Blue area.
Centurions is a... Yo, it's a blue zone. It's a
blue zone, right?
Yeah.
I'm reading so much, I forget all the words sometimes, right? So, it's a blue zone.
Yeah.
And it was basically the fact, like, they feel like they live so long due to the fact that they've got purpose and gratitude within the purpose that they're doing.
Right.
It's like, if you lounging around just, like, staring at things all day long, like you say, you're in Thailand, right? And you're there and you're lounging, and you get to a point, it's because you don't really have purpose. You're like, oh, I'm just sort of chilling.
Yeah.
If you throw a few things into the mix, you might go a few more weeks. Some family come out, they visit you, changes up the situation. You're a bit more grateful. Now you're enjoying it with people. But then you're going to want another thing and another thing. And it gets to a point where I feel like, and it's what, like I was saying earlier, like you've got to strive for something. Like for me, I didn't go through all the loss and hurt at such a young age at 15 to just like sit around on a beach and not tell no one about my story or like influence people to get up and go. Like you're not out there alone. Like that's why we're here on the pod. Like I don't want people to feel like sat there like ungrateful about their life. Like we're all in this together, bro. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. And to touch on that, I think my purpose clearly wasn't in Thailand. It was great. It was fun. It was so relaxing. But I did have a sense of there's damage that needs to be done. Like there is damage that
like you've got a bigger purpose.
And I wouldn't have achieved that if I had just chilled on the beach with my dog. As great as that sounds, I'm not ready for that because I've got to go and attack this world and make some changes and leave a mark on it. And if I don't do that and I die, then why was I here in the first place?
Yeah, you're going to beat yourself up a bit about it.
Well, I'd be dead.
Well, yeah. Essentially.
But, yeah, effectively, in heaven, I'd be like...
If there is an afterlife, you'd be kicking.
Yeah, I'd be kicking myself because I was on... And that's what I'm saying. I forget that when I wake up in the morning. It's like, yo, you're here. Do something. And
then you feel like you're almost beating yourself up because you're not doing it, right? And then all of a sudden you feel like that's rubbing off on your gratefulness and your gratitude.
Not even that. I wouldn't even say it's that. It's just there is this intense need for comfort, and then I get into a comfortable position and then I hate it.
It's because I said it to you the other day, right? Greatness comes from the uncomfortable zones in life.
Yeah.
And then once you've got through the uncomfortableness and you've come out the other side, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but once you've got through that uncomfortable moment in your life of doing something that you really don't want to do, you come out the other side. What comes from it? All of a sudden, you're grateful that you've done it. You then show gratitude to the situation.
Yeah.
It's work.
Yeah. It's work.
Life is work.
Life is work.
You've just got to go at it. You really have. Day in, day out. It don't happen overnight.
Nah.
You just got to go at it, bro.
Get it done.
Get it done. Be grateful.
Yeah, genuinely. I mean, I don't even think there's much more that I can add on to that, because I think you summed it up so nicely. Gratitude goes way further than I think we all realize. And instead of looking at anything as a loss or lack, we need to be looking at the things that we do have right now. That doesn't mean that you can't have drive to do more, because your drive directly relates to your purpose.
Yeah.
Finding your purpose, we'll touch on that in another
that would
episode.
That would be a good one.
Because finding your purpose is a challenge in itself. But if you don't, for those that are kind of thinking, well, I don't even know what my purpose is, then right now your purpose is to find your purpose. And I will give you one tip when it comes to finding your purpose. Do a lot of shit. Like, go out and do things and see how they make you feel. Sometimes it's not your passions.
I'm a big believer in that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ain't the shit we enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's your purpose.
Absolutely. And your purpose will only be complete when your time is up here. But whilst you're here, you got to be chasing that purpose. Yeah. It's something that you'll never catch up to, I believe, and you shouldn't, because if you ever did, like, then what? You know, your work's done. I guess, like Thanos said. You could sit down and look over a grateful universe, and I think it's important to do that from time to time. But for the most part, be gracious as you're striving.
I feel like a lot of people, like, just briefly touching on purpose, I feel like a lot of people like feel like they're not doing something to benefit this world, and they don't even realize that they're pursuing their purpose. Like, this is what I was saying to you the other day about energy. So, like, not even realizing that it could affect your gratefulness and your gratitude towards life. Because, again, it's coming back to, like, staring at everyone else, what everyone else is doing. Like, just focus on yourself. Be grateful for the small things. Like, there are a few points that I think we should, like, wrap up on. Like, be grateful for the small stuff. Evaluate what is good in your life. Maybe when you wake up in the morning, if when you go to bed's a better time for you.
Write it down.
Yeah, write it down if you need to.
Put it down in your phone, on your notes, on some paper, or say it outside. And this isn't affirmations, by the way. This is just having a conversation with yourself in the mirror, and just let yourself know what you're grateful for. It's not about affirming how you're handsome and successful, this, that, and the other, and trying to remind yourself that it's completely different. Gratitude is being gracious for the fact that I can breathe.
Yeah. And just waking up a day and feeling grateful to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
If you can go down and kiss your mum, don't be ungrateful for the fact that you live in her gaff.
Yeah.
Be grateful that you can go downstairs, see your mum, and give her a kiss, because a lot of people can't do that, and I guarantee they would trade everything they possibly have to get that luxury back.
Yeah, they would.
So be gracious for everything that you have, and then just don't forget that doesn't... I think my takeaway is I'm not going to trap myself into thinking that I need to be ungrateful in order to be driven. They're two separate things.
You understood what I said about separating that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one thing that I thought that was kind of a cope of, it's good to be ungrateful.
That was bugging you by the looks of things.
If I'm unsatisfied... Then,
you was almost using your gratefulness as a drive. You're like, if I'm too grateful, I'm not going to have the drive.
Absolutely.
But if I'm ungrateful, I'm going to get up and go.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I think is important to remember is there's no such thing as loss. There's only change.
Yeah.
Even if you quote unquote lose a phone, it's time to change up your phone, my boy. It's time to change up your phone. No. But on that note, that's the intel leaked.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot away from this conversation. I don't know about yourself.
I'm glad to hear it. All right, let's leak the intel. Episode 2. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, take care, guys.